So, if you've been following along, we put together this gigantic moving sale. Let's talk about what sold. I wanted to break it down into areas: hobby stuff, art stuff, yard things, kitchenware, and household things. Where did those high numbers of 6,500 actually come from? And what made this sale so different than most of the garage sales that we've done in the past? So, what I did was I posted our ad on Craigslist and Facebook Marketplace. The night before the sale started, we had someone message us who wanted to buy the lawnmower. Typically, I'm not a big fan of responding to messages and doing all that stuff before. I'd rather have you just come to the sale. But this was one of those items we wanted to make sure sold. And so we said, that's fine, you can come. And the woman came before the garage sale started on Wednesday night and ended up buying the lawnmower and a radio controlled car. And so the car was 40 or 30 and the lawnmower was 650. And so that started the sale off. And then we had someone from Bruce's work, my husband's work, who showed up and walked through, and he had already wanted a few of the things. And so he ended up buying a big workbench for 500, a drill press, the table saw. All in all, it added up to $1,500 worth of stuff that he picked out. And so I left most of it in place and put sold signs on it, especially the tables. The table saw, I put up like a tablecloth thing over it and used it then as a table. And marked sold on it in case anybody, which sure enough, people did lift it up and look at it, which if you've ever tried to sell something is so frustrating because you have all this stuff out in the open that you're hoping people look at, and then they notice the things that are tucked behind. And of course, that's what they notice. So we started off the sale strong with about $2,200 worth of stuff coming in the night before. And so that was a huge thing. Then what sold right away was on Thursday morning, we had the sale scheduled from 8 a.m. until 7 p.m. By 7:30, there were people already shopping. I've done a few sales before, so I knew to expect this. I was ready. I was ready for it. And the first things that sold were some paint, a small sewing machine. Let's see, some metal paint, canvases. Someone bought a bunch of the blank canvases and art supplies. The chainsaw, one of the chainsaws sold right away. A weed trimmer, a small trailer ended up going with the night before with that other set of stuff. An air compressor sold right away. Clamps, angel statue. We had this old little toolbox full of tools that sold right away for $5. Some rings, some fishing lures. I just priced this box full of fishing lures and tackle box stuff for $5, and somebody bought that up right away. Impact guns like drills, that sold. Paint, umbrellas, kitchen pots and pans, a wheelbarrow, and tomato cages. So what I did for a lot of our garden stuff, we had a lot of random fencing, I don't even know what they're called, cow panels or something like that. We had some of those. We had tomato cages, rolls of fencing, and I just lined them up and put $1 each on them. I want to see them be used. I want to see them go. And so a lot of those went the first day. I was shocked at how many tomato cages we still had left. Even I think there was one left by the third day, which shocked me because tomato cages, they are what they are. They weren't all bent up or broken or anything. And to pay $1 for one is a really good deal. So, what else? A lot of kitchen baking supplies, things like that. We had some, you'll always find there's always a few people that will come back over and over when you do a sale. At least that's what I have found. We had a gentleman come and fill his trailer full of stuff. He bought some rugs and some furniture things, a bunch of like tool stuff. And then he came back the next morning again, and we had just put out like this other hutch, and he bought both the desk and hutch things. He bought another piece of furniture and just kept loading it up. So that was amazing. We had another woman come back and she bought like the bicycles on her way to work and some tomato cages, and then came back later with one of her kids, and then back later again with her other kid, and they bought new stuff each time that they came. We had a place for things like that where we just set them aside, put sold on them so they could come back later and get them. Some other big things that sold were like a welding set, a box full of taillights and tools and things like that, a lot of kitchen and baking supplies, a pole saw, saws on the wall. We had some antique clamps and saws and things like that. That same gentleman I said came back, he bought most of that stuff, so that was amazing. The final breakdown, when I actually added up each thing, was in total art, and this was canvas art supplies, paints, drawing materials, things like that, was $355 that we sold. Hobbies, games, books, things like that were $235 between the 3 days. Electronics, this was mostly things like a microphone or cords, clock radio, random stuff like that, electronic type stuff, was $75. I actually had this microphone in the garage sale. I was going to start using this other style that I think I have here. Nope, I don't even have it. Just the little kind that pins on. I'm going to have to start using it at some point when we travel. And so I thought, okay, I'll try to sell the microphone. But I'm so glad it didn't sell. So by the third day, I pulled the desk back out of the sale and this microphone and just thought, you know what? I'm going to use it for the next 2 months. And then I'll just deal with it then. Donate it or do something with it. All right. So this was a tricky area of how to divide. We had like outdoor things and garden things, like I mentioned. That's things like shepherd's hooks and tomato cages, shovels, yard things like hoses and ladders. So it's kind of tricky. Tools. At first I had these all divided up, but then I realized there's so many that could go in either, like a garden hose. Is that considered garden stuff? Is that considered outdoor stuff or yard stuff? So I just put it all together. So that total for all of the tools, and this is where I put the things that sold the night before, like the lawnmower and the table saw, things like that, was $3,987.25. So that was by far our biggest seller, of course. And typically, a lot of that stuff is stuff, if we weren't moving, we wouldn't have sold because there's nothing wrong with it. Tools are expensive. But my husband was really brilliant in a few of those things, like the drill press he bought for the same cost about 10 years ago. He bought it used it for 10 years, sold it for the same amount. So that was amazing. The next category was household, kitchen, and pets. So we just had some like little pet food containers, litter box bags, things like that. And then mix that in with the kitchen things. That's everything from serving dishes and spatulas to wine glasses to household things like vacuum, heating pad, things like that I'm like, I don't really know how to put that in another category. So we'll just say household. So practical things. They're not really the fun stuff. They're stuff that keeps the house running. That category was $360. Holiday items did not sell really great. I had a bin full of really great Christmas stuff that I had for like $5 for the whole bin. I had a whole thing full of fall decor that I had for a few dollars. That did not sell, which I was really bummed about. I tried to just batch it together because somebody, like when I used to have an art studio, I would have been all over that because come time to decorate for the season, you want some of these little sprigs that you can put in things. A couple little signs you can hang up, things like that. So it was really basic things. Nothing too extravagant or anything, but that did not sell for the most part. The two things that did sell were for $20. I sold this vintage set of hand-blown glass ornaments that I bought in, I think, 2004, maybe. That was one of my first big grown-up purchases that I bought of something that I would hold on to for years. And then the second thing was one of my favorite things, and it was a Little House on the Prairie advent calendar. So it was like this flat, just a couple inches thick advent calendar, and we are big fans of Little House on the Prairie in this household. So that was always really fun, and we would put numbers in the drawers, and they would correspond to little wrapped gifts or little cards that we wrote for each other, things like that. We would do something different every year. So I was really glad to see both of those things go to good homes, that they'll be used. And then just a couple of pumpkins that I had taken old styrofoam dollar store pumpkins years ago and covered them with cloth and some twine and done some stuff with. And so both of those sold. The next category is clothing. Now, I admit that I failed in this whole area. Had I had more room or more bandwidth to really set things up nice, I think we could have gotten a lot more. I priced pretty much everything for $1 each. I didn't have the bandwidth to properly deal with the clothing. And in fairness, I had been selling a lot of the higher end things on Poshmark for the last couple years. And so there were a lot of things that I felt really good about that we had gotten good prices for over the years. And this is what was left. And so I was okay. Like, let's just let this go. There was some really good stuff in there, though. Some Tory Burch shorts, Lafayette, I think it's $148, like a black dress that good money, but nobody swiped them up. So altogether in clothing, we did $112. Not terrible. It's something. But mostly a lot of that stuff went to new homes. So I'm really glad to see that and really glad that they'll be worn. And the rest is being donated. And the last item was our ATV. So our four-wheeler, $1,000. That went on day one. Actually, that went to the same guy who filled up his pickup truck. That's why he came back the next time, is to pick up his ATV. And then we managed to fill all around it and his trailer full of stuff. So that was really great. So our total then was $6,561.25. So add on to that in the past 12 months, we have also sold around $6,700 worth of things on Marketplace, a few $100s on Poshmark, and a little over $3,000 on eBay. So that is really exciting. That also doesn't include the car that we sold at the sale, which sold for $5,000. I didn't include that in any of these totals since we were going to sell it anyways. And so really our weekend total was over $11,000. So that was really exciting to just see that number come in and feel like, okay, we got this. Especially being that we had to replace the septic system the following week, which was, you pay for that cash, so, or with a check, but that was over like around $20,000 for that. So that was really nice to have this money come in and just kind of be able to funnel towards some of the big cost items that we have to deal with as we're getting the house sold. So all in all, I feel really satisfied with those numbers. I feel really good that even more than the numbers, I don't want to dismiss them. That's a huge weight lifted financially to have some extra buffer there. But more than that, I look around our house and I just think there's so many times a day where I think, oh, that's sold. And I'm so glad that went to someone. And I'm so glad that somebody saw this little trinket and they got that. So it has not been easy. It's been a lot to handle. To sell everything you own, the easier choice may have been, in the short term, the easier choice would have been to just put it in storage and not think about it. But I knew this deeper, wiser part of myself knew that we have to deal with this now. Energetically, I don't want a part of my energy or bandwidth being stuck here with the stuff and getting that monthly bill from a storage facility where at any moment they could raise the rates and you're just stuck. You can't get the stuff. I'm like, I'm not dealing with that. Not to mention the life lessons and the strength that is developed. I feel like a stronger person having handled every single thing that I own and put a price on it, let it go into the world, interacted with the people who got it. And that's that's the best possible use that any of this stuff could have had, is to unite people and have conversations be had over it. So beyond that, it's doing no good having sat in a box in a storage locker. And also just keeping in mind, you may have had a garage sale in the past where you're like, I did all this work and I sold stuff and only a couple $100s worth of stuff sold. Look at my other videos where I show how we marketed the garage sale, because that helped a ton. But also when it shifted into now we're selling everything, that added so much more stuff into the sale that, like I said before, we never would have sold. And those were some high dollar items. And that got more people to the sale, which in turn had more people buying more stuff. And so when you do decide to go all in, if that's what you do, know that the money will show up and you kind of you go for it. And then you have these other secondary options. Anything that was small and shippable, I would sell on eBay. And like I said, in many of my videos, I started a year plus ago on this. I have some videos about it and I can talk all kinds of things about it if you want to know any more about what makes me decide what to do which thing, as well as a clothing one like a Poshmark, as well as a Marketplace or a Craigslist. So every one of them has their strengths. If you can, you just have to switch gears and go into the selling mode and know why you're doing it. If you are thinking of moving abroad or selling things and downsizing, this can be life-changing, and it's a lot of work, but it's not without reward. I feel so much lighter and so much freer right now than I felt in so long. And I would love for you to feel that same feeling. If you're in the midst of this too, you are welcome to go check out. I have a free gift on my website. It's called the Pivot Planner. It's basically all the things I have been doing as I'm making this big life pivot. It helps you really gauge your energy levels and how you can show up for you in the best way to make these big life changes. It's free. Go there and check it out. I'll put the link in the description. Let me know how you like it after you use it. And it doesn't have to be for moving abroad. It's just all kinds of things. I went back to school in my 40s. It was the same mindset I used when we decided to homeschool our youngest kiddo. There's so many times in life where we have to make a change and we're not quite sure what to do about it. And we're not even sure we want to tell people about it. And so just know you're not alone. All right. I thank you so much for being here. I hope you have a really wonderful day. Bye.